This is Charlie Parsons for the Stomping Ground, powered by Wow Hydrate and available on DAZN, as of next year. Queensberry you will find on DAZN as well. Firstly, congratulations. How did this all come about? We know, as always, there's a little things that drop here and there. I know Frank was posed a question a couple months back, didn't give too much away. This was a real surprise to see announced last night.
Yeah, I think. Well, look, firstly, the response has been unbelievable. It's been something that we obviously, with the number and the array of promoters that we work with worldwide, it's not actually that unusual for us. We're not surprised, and actually I think what's been quite refreshing, certainly from some of the stuff that we've seen online from the fans and just general sports world, is they're also not that surprised either. Obviously, given the work that we've done with Queensberry over the years, we've quite often worked with them before and taken fights in certain territories to exploit and to distribute. Obviously, with the Riyadh season collaboration over the last 12 months plus, we've had lots of very, very close work with the guys over at Queensberry. All been extremely successful and a pleasure to work with them. So yeah, finally to announce what's been worked on for some time, and as you rightfully say, to kick on from April 1st next year. It's exciting, and I think it's for want of a better phrase, it's a big scout for us. A big promoter, top promoter, to work with us exclusively is fantastic.
Boxing's a funny old game, man. I'll say this to Frank. I love Frank. I'll get on with him. It's crazy how sort of opinions change, how the boxing world works. Yeah. What was deemed as just an app at one point now becomes almost the go-to in the UK now for any sort of boxing. I think obviously the relationship that he'd had with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom and everyone working together is what sort of sealed this and I suppose made everyone more open to it.
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously that the successes that DAZN, our growth has demonstrated in recent times, certainly for the boxing business in the last 5+ years, it demonstrates to the world that we're not just exploring this space. We're committed to it. We're trying to innovate it. And as I say many times, what comes with that means collaboration and working with as many people with a kind of skin in the game as possible. And there are very few promoters in the world with more skin in the game than Queensberry. So it made a ton of sense for us. And obviously for Queensberry as well, it means that we can broadcast their shows all over the world with the same level of treatment, the same quality promotion, the same quality broadcasts as we do with all of our other promoters worldwide. It's something we take very seriously, and we're really thankful to have their talented roster and their slate with us. And also I think the other point is, it means that in the past, maybe there may have been instances where broadcasters maybe have blocked fights, or maybe it may have been difficult to make fights because of broadcast situations. That is no longer the case for certain instances. So, yeah, good time for us. Very exciting. We've been working on it for a while, so it's not as obviously a surprise for us. But I think generally speaking, the mood from the sports fan and the boxing fan has been testament to the fact that it's the right decision for both parties.
I suppose just a couple things on the logistics. Will we see Matchroom Queensberry shows on the same night in the UK? I imagine you're already having to look quite far forward in terms of calendar and scheduling.
Ensuring they don't clash. You mean?
Yeah.
I mean, we do that anyway, right? We make sure that we're not having clashing shows, or we try and avoid clashing shows wherever possible. But with a minimum of 150 fights a year, you're going to have instances where some overlap. Of course, there'll be instances where we try not to make, certainly audiences like Matchroom and Queensberry are going to bring in very similar fans. We'll make it very accessible to those audiences. And yeah, look, they'll collaborate as they obviously have done over the last 12 months. And I'm really excited. There's obviously not too much I can say here in terms of actual matchmaking that's been discussed. That all of those conversations have already happened between the.
You mean that you're not going to tell me every single fight for next year?
Yeah, the shock horror. I can't. But there's work that's already done, and this is what's great, because there's a lot of work that goes into schedule, and by design, the more promoters you work with, the more of them around the table that are collaborating. It makes for a much more productive, believe it or not, working dynamic, and I'm really, really excited to embark on that with the Queensberry guys.
One that sort of become immediately apparent and interesting to me, I suppose, where we're now seeing these cross pay-per-views on the Riyadh season shows, Sky, TNT and yourselves at DAZN. Is it moving towards a bit of, I mean, ultimately you guys would love to be the sole broadcaster of the event. You would be lying if you said otherwise. Is that now the goal moving forward? Does it look like there will be less broadcast partners on a wider scale for pay-per-view events?
Well, we're not really thinking of it like that, to be honest, because if you look at the volume of shows in 2024 alone, all broadcasters that have been involved have done extremely well out of them. They've been some of the biggest fights, some of them of all time. I think I wouldn't be too far saying it's not too extravagant a statement. We have our own ambitions and our objectives, and of course that's to be number one. That's to be the sports, not just boxing, the sports destination. That isn't just live sport. That means for betting, for content, for social media, which means that we have to believe that we're going to be the best in all of those spaces, which is incredibly ambitious. So I suppose the answer to your question is yes, but that doesn't mean that we can't do extremely well in a world where we have to collaborate, because as we've proven many times, and I actually enjoy doing it because you learn from your counterparts, you see what you're very good at, you see where you can improve, so more of it please, I think.
I saw in the, I don't know if it was the press release or the video yesterday, that Frank had said that it was almost hinted that this could be George's chapter.
Yeah.
Now that's been sort of thread through for a while now. Frank's at this media lunch, as is George. I go back years, Frank Smith telling me that George Warren had always been so keen to cooperate, whether that be with broadcasters, whether it be with promotional outlet. That has happened. Do you see George becoming more and more, I suppose, paramount in this deal as the years go on?
Well, George is paramount to the Queensberry operation, of course, we all know that. Frank is, it's Frank's business, it's Frank's baby. He's obviously been working in this industry for a very long time, Hall of Fame promoter, but George has obviously been working with his dad for a very long time. He's been instrumental in this deal. I can certainly speak for our business, and I'm very excited to be working with them both, because you've got the experience and you've got the hunger from George, and the ambition, I think, is the word. We look at it from our point of view. It's, you have to remain ambitious. You can't just be like, okay, we'll put on some great shows, fantastic, we'll see what comes around the corner. You have to not be content with that, and I think what Queensberry have certainly been doing in recent times, and all of our promotional partners, is demonstrated their ambition. You see it with Eddie when Eddie speaks, the passion that Eddie has. Same with Frank, the same with George. We love that. We share that same passion. We share that same drive to be better. And if that means that it's George at the nucleus of their operation, then again, fantastic for
Happy
us.
days.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a couple more from me. When we caught up last, we spoke about not maybe the lack of the UK schedule, but maybe where there were so many big pay-per-view events that at times we weren't seeing as many in the UK. With this now being a big old collaboration, we know that we'll now see more Queensberry fighters on Matchroom shows, vice versa. We'll also see more shows in the UK. You hinted at big things coming. I suppose this is a real bolster as to the calendar next year. Exactly.
I mean, it certainly plays into that. We'll be broadcasting the shows all around the world. Obviously, Queensberry have a huge stable based here in the UK. Some of the best fighters in British boxing are part of their stable. Obviously, you pair that with the guys at Matchroom alone, and you're talking about some unbelievable potential British fights that will be taking place on home soil. I obviously kind of partially knew about a lot of this stuff, which I couldn't disclose. So, we've been getting, over the last 12 months, a fair amount of income in from critics maybe on the lack of UK shows. I personally still feel that the volume of UK shows, you look at the run that we're in at the moment, fights every single week, 3 last weekend on our platform. It's an unrivaled volume of boxing, and we're a global broadcaster, so we're not going to slow down on wanting to broaden our reach into other territories. But yes, to answer your question, having Queensberry on board obviously means that we're going to be exponentially increasing the volume of shows that we put on in the UK as well.
Lastly from me, in this deal, I don't know if you'll be able to reveal or not, but is there intent for Queensberry to promote events in America as well?
Well, look, they'll be part of their aspiration. I think from our perspective, it's an international deal. We're an international broadcaster. At this moment in time, as I said to you previously, we're working on the schedule for next year, but the answer is yes, international broadcaster, international promoter. Let's take it to the world.
Alfie Sharman, I suppose to you and the wider team at DAZN, always a privilege speaking to you, but congratulations
thank you.
on a deal, and hopefully big times ahead for the sport next year, and long may it continue.
Let's hope so.
Top man. Cheers, Alfie.